last night's game, and look, it wasn't memorable. It wasn't one of those that will have a ton of storylines that'll resonate into the news cycle, but it's still football. It's on TV, and we're getting toward the point of the season, Devin, where they're starting to get toward the bottom of the tank. We're beyond the halfway point. There aren't many of these Monday night games left. There aren't many Thursday night games left, grand scheme of things. So I try to enjoy every one of them, even when they're not compelling down to the wire. But this one was still good. I mean, I thought it was fun to watch. The Dolphins get out to the big lead, and then it felt inevitable. The Rams weren't just going to come back and take the lead. They were going to blow them off the field. The Dolphins kept giving them opportunities. The Rams just wouldn't take advantage of it. The Rams kept shooting themselves in the foot. They kept settling for field goals instead of touchdowns, and they couldn't take what the Dolphins were trying to give them.
It was one of those games where it wasn't overall just really bad, but it was a lot of bad football that kept seeping in to like these sequences where you're just thinking, okay, I've watched a lot of football. This is the turning point. This is the one mistake that Miami might have, and now the Rams are going to get going, and then the Rams will have a mistake, and you're like, what? And I think the biggest thing that irritated me in the game is you set up for a 52-yard field goal and you get a false start. Like in the NFL and special teams meetings and team meetings, the biggest thing you talk about is when you line up, and I know it's a little different. Kickers are better from 50 and beyond now, but like when you line up for a 50-plus or a 46, 48-yard field goal, like we can't get a penalty because now the coach has to make a decision because now we're backing up of, can we still make this field goal? And then when you get a false start, but they still snap the ball and the kicker makes the kick, I feel like I've never seen good things come from that after. And they line up and they miss another kick, and I'm just like, well, not another kick, you missed the kick. And it's just like, that's bad football. Like, you can't do that in a game like this. And you said it, the story of the game was simply the Rams couldn't find a way to score in the red zone. As good as Puka is and Kupp is, they needed a third weapon. They needed Robinson or, hopefully when Higbee comes back at that tight end position in the red zone to kind of show up and be another guy they could go to. You have to credit the Dolphins defense. Calais Campbell was, he was unreal last night. I text a couple of friends. It's like, Calais Campbell's 38 years old. He's not playing quarterback. He's playing defensive tackle. And the guy was still making plays. He was disruptive. So, again, credit to Miami Dolphins defense stepping up when they needed to. No matter the interceptions or what happened on offense, they kept making plays when they needed to shut down a drive and keep them ahead.
You mentioned the dynamic of the penalty that pushes the field goal back 5 yards. And it's almost like it's not even a discussion. 52, 57, same difference will make it. There's just this nonchalance now for longer field goals. We saw it on Sunday night, Kaimi Fairbairn of the Texans, in a spot where I thought the Texans should have gone for it, 4th and 4. It's a 58-yard field goal, no big deal. Yeah, no big deal. It wasn't even close to being good. We're just so numb to the fact, and I think the coaches are too, that these kickers can hit bombs from everywhere, that they aren't flustered by a difference between 52 and 57, although ultimately last night for the Rams, it didn't work out. Made the one that didn't count, missed the one that did count. So, again, Rams can't get into the end zone. Matthew Stafford had moments of brilliance, but just there were times where he was harassed, he was hit, he was, the Dolphins defense, if they don't play the way they did last night, there wasn't enough from the Miami offense to win the game. Yep. The Miami offense was moving the ball in spurts, but they made enough mistakes. It just gets back to what you said. We've watched football. We know when the turning point is coming. We assume the turning point's coming, and then the Rams won't take it. They either fumble the ball right back or the drive fizzles out or whatever the case may be. The Rams had the chance last night to take that, and they kept rejecting it over and over and over again.
And I felt this way about the Miami offense for a while. The teams that understand, hey, let's just don't give up the big play to Miami. Let's force Miami to drive the ball 10-plus play drive every time if they're going to score a touchdown. Like, if we can play the game on those terms of, hey, we're not gonna let Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle have like this huge play, or Achane make a play where we're like, man, they got it all in 60 yards or all in 80 yards. When you give up those plays, Miami's offense is the most dynamic offense in the NFL because of the speed they have everywhere. But when you make them drive, it's not to say that they can't. In the whole NFL, it's hard to do that consistently. And I think we saw some of the decisions that Tua made dropping back because of the Rams' pressure. Those young defensive linemen were getting after him and creating pressure, that he threw some passes over the middle that were questionable. Those got intercepted. Then he got lucky that the diving play didn't get intercepted, where, again, I don't think it would have changed the game because the Rams weren't taking advantage of it, but I think that is the formula. And I think when you watch Miami play against Buffalo, I think Buffalo does it better than anybody else. No matter how their defense plays, it always seems that, how their offense plays, it always seems that the Buffalo defense knows how to play Miami. I think other teams have kind of gone to that too, of like, hey, let's play too high, let's play deep, let's not give it all up. And again, when you play that way, it gives you a chance. The problem with the Rams were they didn't take advantage of those opportunities. And I think that's the thing now at this point in the season of you start to look at teams and you go, all right, like you are who you are. There's no more kind of, all right, we got to wait until this guy gets back, or, hey, we still got a couple weeks to figure this out. Like it's go time. As those losses start to pile up, it gets harder and harder to think about, are you going to make the playoffs? And I know we'll always look at the standings and kind of figure out, all right, who has who left on their schedule, and then try to guess how many wins you can get. But the problem is you start to navigate and learn how to win within a season. And when you learn how to win within a season, it kind of sticks with you every single week. You have the confidence to go make those plays. When you don't make them, it starts to seep in your mind like, here we go again. Here we go again. We're going to fall short. We're not going to get it done. And I think those are the type of issues that you got to start to try to avoid. And I know the Rams are fighting for their lives because of that offensive line. It keeps shuffling, getting guys back. This guy's banged up. He moves here. Jonah Jackson was first game back in a while, struggled snapping the ball back there to Matt Stafford last night. So just a lot of losing football plays for the Rams.
If we've got the standings, and we hadn't planned to do this, but the AFC standings right now, we are starting to see the separation. Obviously, the 4 division winners will get automatic berth. 3 wild cards beyond that, and it's going to be, as it stands right now, as it's happening right now, the second-place team in the AFC North, whether that be the Ravens or the Steelers, because they've separated from the pack. The Chargers, who are quietly 6-3. So there's the first 6 teams. But that 7th seed really is going to be a chase among multiple teams. And the best outcome for this weekend for the Dolphins was going into Monday night's game. And this is maybe where you get that extra little kick. You get that extra little Devin McCourty pre-show pep talk when you're playing the last game of the weekend. And, the Bengals lost. Oh, the Colts lost. Oh, the Broncos lost on one of the craziest plays we've ever seen. We have an opening to pick up a game on all those teams. So for the 7th seed, you've got the Dolphins now at 3-6. You've got the Bengals at 4-6. You've got the Colts at 4-6, and the Broncos at 5-5. So the Dolphins are very much alive for now. They got to stack some wins. First, they had to get 1, which was useful. But now they got to get some more. But they're very much alive in that chase for the 7th seed. And I think they recognized, and I think that's one of the reasons why I believe the Dolphins would win the game last night. Sometimes the team that's more desperate finds a way versus the team that knows, and we won 3 in a row. We got a little buffer here. We're not going to win all of them. There's just a greater degree of urgency by the Dolphins because if they had blown it last night, they really are pretty damn close to being done. They'd be in the same boat the Jets are in at 3-7. Or they would have been 2-7, not 3-7, 2-7. They'd be in worse shape than the Jets.
And I think that's the thing with Miami. I think Miami's been preaching that of, listen, you got a team where you have probably a good amount of confidence coming into the season. Hey, this is a year to go win the division. We're going to be able to do all these different things. And then you lose your starting quarterback. Tua goes down. And some teams, like when your starting quarterback goes down, it's like, all right, let's just survive. For Miami, they had nothing. Like they couldn't produce anything that even resembled an NFL offense with Tua out. So now everything kind of turned into, all right, we need to wait for our savior to come back. Tua comes back, instantly the offense looks better. Instantly this looks like a team that can compete. But they fall short 2 weeks in a row. They still lose, and it's like, all right, like what are we going to do now? And I think Mike McDaniel was sitting in there like, guys, like we didn't look like ourselves for weeks. It's a process. We're building. We're getting there. And I think these guys down in Miami right now are sitting here saying, like you just said, Florio, we just need to get one. And I think they're probably sitting there saying, okay, now that we got one, we're ready to steamroll and run some games off. And I think this is about to be the time of the year where the home games for Miami start to play a factor. Teams that are in, colder climates have to come down to Miami, especially these 1 o'clock starts, play in the heat. Miami, you got to take advantage of that. So these are I think this is the type of time for Miami where because of the way their season unfolded, that they feel like they're more on an upward trajectory compared to some of the other teams who have been trying to figure it out. They're like, for weeks, we had no answer. We weren't trying to figure anything out. We knew we were going to be bad. These last 2 weeks, we felt like we were getting better. Now we beat a Rams team who was hot. We beat them on the road, on the West Coast, Monday night. Now we found out our rhythm. Now we found out our formula. Let's just keep doing that. Let's go do that moving forward. And I think they're going to have the confidence to get going and try to win some games. It's going to be hard because we're gonna have the Chargers and the Bengals this weekend on Sunday Night Football. You got the Broncos. You got some teams who are starting to figure some things out. I know Cincinnati lost to Baltimore, but they've looked really good on offense, and their defense has played better, just not consistent. That from Miami, I hope it's not a little too late for them to get going compared to some of these other teams.
They've played the Colts and lost, which isn't good. They don't play the Bengals or the Broncos, but when you peek ahead at the upcoming schedule, there are some wins to be had. Raiders, Patriots, who aren't the automatic check-the-box win that they have been. The Bears found that out on Sunday. At the Packers, Thanksgiving night on NBC. The Jets come to town. They're at the Texans. Who knows what you're going to get from Houston at this point. 49ers, not easy. Browns, Jets to finish the season. But when you're 3-6, you can lose 2 more. Maybe. Because if you're 9-8 and the Colts are 9-8, they're getting in. The Bengals, who knows what they're going to do. The Broncos have been more impressive than I think anyone thought they would be. It's going to be a hell of a chase, hopefully. Hopefully they'll be one. That's the thing. You add that 7th playoff spot, and you keep more teams in the hunt for the last ticket to the dance. And we've got that now. 6 spots, I can't say you just hand them over, but you look at the records, the first 6 seem to be locked in. It's that last one, and oh boy, that's our first in the hunt showing. Week 10, we're already in the hunt, but there they are. And the Dolphins winning last night to stay in the hunt. And the other reality too, if you stumble, one of those other teams, if they get hot behind them, the Patriots, I'm not saying that sarcastically, the Jets, you never know. Somebody could get hot. And Devin, last thing I'll say about it, the Dolphins in recent years have started strong, fizzled down the stretch, and then made a quick exit from the playoffs. Flipping it around, if they can get hot, it's better to be hot down the stretch. You carry that in. There's a team, it seems like every year, that gets to that point where we can't lose another one in the regular season. And when the playoffs roll around, hey, we've been in the playoffs for 4 weeks now. So the Dolphins could be that team this year.
Yeah, and 2 things. From what you just said, that 7th spot, I think back to my last few years in the NFL when you added that 7th spot of, it felt like the way we were playing, there was no shot that we could make the playoffs. It just was like the ball's not bouncing our way. We're losing games we should win. But then you would look at the standings and you'd be like, if they lose 1 game, we win 2 in a row, all of a sudden it's like we're a game and a half out of the playoffs. So you continue to do this math of, hey, like we're still in this thing. And I agree exactly what you just said of, The problem is we look at the rest of the stands and we're like, these are winnable games. But like a team like the Patriots, they now beat Chicago last week. They're going to get the Rams coming off a Monday night game. I think the game's, I don't remember exactly where the game is, if it's in New England or in LA.
It's in Foxborough.
I think it's in Foxborough. So now they're going to travel all the way to the East Coast. Like, this is a game where New England's going to sit there and say, we can steal this game. Like, we can go and try to put and stack wins. Jonathan Jones, one of their players after the game, I talked to him. He's like, we need to stack wins. Like, this win is cool, but we want to stack wins to start to build. And I think that's what you want to do. So I look at all these teams. I look at Miami. I look at the Rams of, all right, what's going to happen around Thanksgiving? For Miami, you're going to play the Green Bay Packers, primetime game, Thanksgiving night. Like, those are the type of games where if you win, you start feeling like, okay, here we go. And it reminds me of 2018. We lose a Miami Miracle. That's devastating. Then we go to Pittsburgh and we turn it into like this must win. We lose to Pittsburgh. And you said it. For some teams, they're going to say, hey, we've been in the playoffs for 4 weeks. I remember after we lose that game, Bill comes in and he says, guys, for the rest of the season, these are all playoff games. If we win and we win out, somebody's going to mess it up and we're going to get a bye. So essentially, we're playing for a playoff win, because if we get a bye, that gives us a win without even playing. And it turned into, hey, he's right. And we took those last 2 games of the regular season against the Jets and Buffalo, who were bad that year. But instead of, not coming ready to play, or we took it as like, this is a playoff game. We have to go win, because essentially it wins us another playoff game. And I think there's going to be teams down the stretch like that. You're going to have teams that get in that mode, but you're also going to have teams that are going to play spoiler. I look at the Cleveland Browns at the end there, a team that should have been getting good coming in, where when you don't and the season doesn't work out your way, the last 2 weeks you're like, all right, how do we end on a good note? Let's ruin somebody else's season. So it's going to be I think some of those games are going to be tougher than we see right now in week 10 as those weeks start to continue.
It's funny. You almost had me convinced that we should put the Patriots at the bottom of the in the hunt category. You're trying to speak that into existence. First speak that into existence, then speak into existence a playoff berth. But yeah, crazier things have happened and teams get hot. And as you win and keep winning, the perception changes externally, the feeling changes internally, and a team believes it can make magic. And again, those are the dangerous teams when the playoffs start, because they've already got that playoff callus. That's one of the reasons why the teams that get the bye weeks, it's dangerous for them in the divisional round. They were sitting home while a team that comes into town to play them in that round of 8 has won a game in the postseason, and they feel better about themselves. They got their sweat going. They catch you flat-footed. There's that mental edge. And when the talent is packed together like it is, although this year maybe it's not as packed together as it's been, that lesser team can always get a lucky punch on the better team and advance in the postseason. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.